Welcome to the Red Flags podcast. Thank you for tuning in. As always, before we dive into the story, I kindly ask you to like this video and make sure you're subscribed to my blog. That way, you help keep me motivated, and your activity also helps other people discover my podcast. There's a precise, almost architectural beauty in watching someone's life implode when they believe themselves untouchable. I should know. I spent 11 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days designing the perfect collapse. My name is Nathan Caldwell. I'm a 39-year-old risk assessment director at Morgan Stanley in Chicago, where I analyze potential catastrophes for a living. The irony isn't lost on me that Eliza, my wife of 12 years, never saw me coming. Then again, people rarely suspect the quiet ones, the methodical ones, the ones who choose their words like a bomb disposal expert selects which wire to cut. We met in grad school at Northwestern, both chasing MBAs and dreams of corner offices with Lake Michigan views. Eliza was captivating, all sharp wit and sharper ambition wrapped in a laugh that made heads turn across crowded lecture halls. I was the steadier counterpart, the strategic thinker with a gift for numbers and patience. We built a life in Lincoln Park, a renovated brownstone with wide oak floors and windows that caught the morning light just so. No children. A mutual decision that gave us the freedom to build our careers and travel on a whim. A smart couple making smart decisions. Until Eliza didn't. I discovered her affair almost accidentally. The way you might stumble upon a snake. While hiking, you're admiring the view until suddenly, there it is, coiled and dangerous at your feet. I was updating our shared cloud storage, organizing the digital clutter that accumulates in a marriage, when I found a folder I didn't recognize. Marketing Concepts, Drake Project. I clicked, expecting to find work files. Instead, I found 63 photos of my wife and Ryan Drake, her agency's creative director, in various states of intimacy in what appeared to be the Langham Hotel downtown. The timestamp showed they'd been taken just 3 days earlier, when Eliza was supposedly at a creative retreat in Michigan. There's a unique kind of silence that descends when your world fractures. Not the absence of sound, but a vacuum-like quality where everything external continues. Cars passing outside, the refrigerator humming, the neighbor's dog barking, while you stand perfectly still at the epicenter of your own private apocalypse. Didn't slam the laptop shut. I didn't call her screaming. I didn't throw things or punch walls. Those are amateur responses, knee-jerk reactions of people who haven't spent their professional lives calculating risk and planning for worst-case scenarios. Instead, I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon, sat on our Italian leather sofa, and began to think about what Ryan Drake had taken from me, and more importantly, how I would take it back. With interest. Ryan Drake was 41, with the kind of confidence that comes from being conventionally handsome your entire life. A former college lacrosse player turned creative executive at Chicago's most prestigious advertising agency, Meridian Partners. Married to Stephanie Drake, a pediatric surgeon at Northwestern Memorial with twin 8-year-old boys. A modernist house in Winnetka, a vintage Porsche he drove only on weekends, and a carefully cultivated Instagram presence showcasing his picture-perfect life. Ryan had everything. That was his first mistake. People with everything have more too. Lucy, I spent the next week in reconnaissance mode. I didn't confront Eliza. Instead, I became the most attentive husband in Chicago, cooking her favorite meals, asking about her work projects, suggesting we plan a summer vacation to the Amalfi Coast, all while methodically gathering intelligence on the man who was sharing my wife. I created a separate email account and contacted a private investigator, not to follow Eliza, but Ryan. I used professional research resources to compile a complete financial history. I analyzed his social media presence back to 2009. I identified his close associates and clients. I learned his routines, his preferences, his weaknesses. Ryan's second mistake was predictability. Every Thursday night, he told Stephanie he had strategy sessions that ran late. In reality, he met Eliza at the Langham, always booking the same corner suite on the 10th floor, always arriving at 6:15 p.m., always ordering the same room service, 2 gin martinis, and the charcuterie board. The man was nothing if not consistent in his betrayal. His third mistake was hubris. He believed himself invulnerable, leaving digital breadcrumbs everywhere, text messages, hotel receipts on shared credit cards, location tracking enabled on his phone that anyone with basic technical skills could access. It was almost disappointing how careless they were, drunk on the intoxication of forbidden desire. I continued to perform the role of oblivious husband, all while constructing my blueprint for retribution. Not revenge. Revenge is hot, impulsive, messy. What I was designing was retribution, cold, calculated, and comprehensive. My first strategic strike came 3 months after my discovery, at Meridian Partners' annual Client Appreciation Gala. I'd attended these events with Eliza for years, making polite conversation with agency executives and their clients while nursing a single scotch all evening. This time, I arrived alone, explaining that Eliza was fighting a migraine. "Nathan! Didn't expect to see you flying solo tonight," Ryan called across the rooftop bar of the aviary, false camaraderie emanating from him like cheap cologne. He was standing with Walter Kensington, CEO of Heartland Foods, Meridian's largest client. "Wouldn't miss it," I smiled, shaking Walter's hand firmly. "Walter and I were just discussing risk management strategies for Heartland's expansion last month." Ryan's smile faltered. "You know each other?" "Nathan's been helping us restructure our approach to market volatility," Walter explained, clapping me on the shoulder. "Brilliant work." What Ryan didn't know was that I'd spent weeks cultivating a professional relationship with Walter, manufacturing a chance meeting at a charity fundraiser, impressing him with my financial acumen, and subtly becoming a trusted advisor. "I didn't realize you two had connected," Ryan said, his voice tight. "Small world," I replied, sipping my drink. Over the next hour, I casually mentioned concerns about creative continuity and ethical management practices at agencies handling major accounts. I asked seemingly innocent questions about Meridian's internal protocols for managing client confidentiality. By the time I left, I'd planted seeds of doubt in the mind of Meridian's most important client. Phase 1. Complete. For Phase 2, I needed an ally, someone with intimate knowledge of Meridian's internal workings, someone with their own reasons to see Ryan stumble. I found her in Jessica Winters, a former creative director who'd been passed over for promotion when Ryan joined the agency. A few LinkedIn messages, a coffee meeting, and a carefully framed proposition later, I had insider information on Ryan's most closely guarded professional secret. He had been taking credit for campaign concepts developed by junior team members, including a Clio-nominated campaign for a national banking client. Armed with this information, I created an anonymous email account and sent detailed evidence to 3 industry award committees, the client's marketing director, and Meridian's board of directors. I included dates, meeting notes, and original concept documents that Jessica had helpfully provided. The timing was impeccable, 2 weeks before annual performance reviews and bonus allocations. Meanwhile, I continued my performance as devoted husband, even suggesting couples therapy to reconnect. Eliza agreed with suspicious eagerness, likely guilt-driven. During our sessions, I was vulnerable, communicative, and committed to our marriage, creating an official record of my efforts should things ever reach legal proceedings. The third phase targeted Ryan's pristine reputation in his personal life. This required the most delicate touch. I established a presence at his country club, joining as a member through a business associate's recommendation. Over several months, I became familiar with his social circle, particularly befriending Clark Jenkins, a garrulous investment banker, who happened to be Stephanie Drake's cousin. Through careful conversations lubricated with premium whiskey, I learned the Drake marriage had weathered previous infidelities, with Stephanie having forgiven Ryan once before. Clark mentioned they had a post-nup agreement, with a fidelity clause that would leave Ryan significantly disadvantaged financially if he strayed again. One evening, after Clark had enjoyed several bourbon old fashions, I casually mentioned seeing Ryan downtown with a colleague several times, looking rather intimate. Probably nothing, I said. But given his history... Clark's face darkened. That son of a bitch promised Steph it wouldn't happen again. He pulled out his phone, presumably to text his cousin. I gently stopped him. Maybe I'm wrong. Don't say anything on my account. But the damage was done. Clark would watch more carefully now, and suspicion spreads like a virus in close-knit social circles. The final phase required perfect timing and a bit of theatrical flair. Began by liquidating several investments and transferring funds to new accounts solely in my name. Perfectly legal moves that could be explained as portfolio restructuring, but would protect my assets in the event of divorce proceedings. Next, I compiled a comprehensive dossier on the affair. Photographs, hotel receipts, location data showing consistent Thursday patterns, text message records I'd acquired through the cloud backup on our shared tablet that Eliza had apparently forgotten about. I scheduled a business trip to New York, telling Eliza I'd be gone from Wednesday through Friday. Instead, I returned Thursday afternoon and checked into the Langham myself, in a suite directly adjacent to Ryan's regular room. At precisely 8:30 p.m., when I knew they would be most comfortable, most vulnerable, I executed the final stroke. I did not burst in dramatically. I did not create a scene. Instead, I sent simultaneous texts to both their phones, identical messages containing a single photo of them entering the hotel together that afternoon, accompanied by the words, "I know everything. Check your email." The emails I sent contained links to private web folders. One for Eliza, one for Ryan, one for Stephanie Drake, one for Meridian's CEO, and one for Ryan's most important clients. Each folder contained carefully selected evidence tailored to its recipient. I then called room service, ordering a bottle of champagne to be delivered to their room with a note. "Congratulations on the Drake campaign. Everyone will be talking about it tomorrow. Nathan." Then I waited, listening through the wall as their evening imploded. First came the notifications, the sudden silence, followed by panicked voices, escalating to accusations, denials, and finally, the sound of a door slamming. I stepped into the hallway just as Ryan emerged, disheveled and ashen-faced, phone pressed to his ear as he desperately tried to reach his wife. Our eyes met. Recognition dawned on his face, followed by confusion, then dread. "You," he said, his voice barely audible. I smiled politely. "Good. Evening, Ryan. Leaving so soon? The champagne hasn't even arrived." He stepped toward me, fists clenching. "You calculating bastard. You set this all up." "I assess risks for a living," I replied calmly. "You and Eliza were a catastrophic one." His phone buzzed. He glanced down, the color draining from his face, as he read what I presumed was a message from Stephanie or perhaps his boss. "You've destroyed everything," he whispered. "No, Ryan, you did that yourself. I merely ensured you faced the appropriate consequences." I stepped aside to let him pass. "I believe the technical term is externalities. Eliza didn't return home that night, or the next. When she finally appeared on Sunday evening, she looked like she had aged 5 years and 3 days. "How long have you known?" she asked, standing in our living room, not bothering to remove her coat. "Does it matter?" I replied, gesturing to the glass of water I'd poured for her. She ignored it. "You ruined him, Nathan. The board suspended him pending an ethics investigation. Stephanie's filed for divorce and a restraining order. His reputation is destroyed. Unfortunate consequences of his choices," I said. "And yours." "This isn't you," she whispered. "This calculating, cold-blooded revenge." I laughed then, genuinely amused. "That's where you're wrong, Eliza. This is exactly who I am. You just never bothered to notice that the man who plans for financial catastrophes might also plan for personal ones." She stared at me, finally seeing me clearly for perhaps the first time in our marriage. "What happens now?" I handed her a manila envelope. "Divorce papers, already filed. Your belongings have been packed and moved to a storage facility. The access information is included. The locks will be changed tomorrow." "You can't just erase 12 years of marriage." "I didn't," I replied. "You did. Thursday by Thursday, lie by lie." After she left, I poured myself that bourbon again and sat in the quiet house. Was there satisfaction? Yes, a cool, clean kind of satisfaction that comes from precision execution. Was there joy? No, nothing so warm or human. In the risk assessment business, we have a concept called acceptable losses. The damage you're willing to sustain to prevent greater catastrophe. My marriage was an acceptable loss. My dignity was not. I sometimes see Ryan around the city. He's working at a much smaller agency now, the Porsche replaced by a sensible sedan. His Instagram is private, his LinkedIn sparse. He crosses the street. When he spots me, as if disaster might be contagious. As for Eliza, she moved to Denver 6 months after our divorce was finalized. She emails occasionally, messages that oscillate between apologies and accusations. I rarely respond. People often misunderstand revenge, viewing it as an emotional outburst rather than what it truly can be. Architecture. You design it carefully, build it methodically, and if done correctly, it stands as a monument long after the initial passion has cooled. I've since redone my brownstone. Replace the oak floors with walnut, the Italian leather sofa, with something more comfortable. I date occasionally, transparent about my past from the beginning. I've become known for my honesty, ironically enough, but sometimes, on Thursday evenings, I pour 2 fingers of bourbon and silently toast to the lesson I taught them both. In a world of careless people, there are still those of us who pay attention to details, and we're the dangerous ones. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.